Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Romina and today we're here to talk about SenLinYu's book, Alchemised. Should we be reading Alchemised? This is the most important question in the book world right now. Some people are so against it and some people love it and want to support it all the way through. And honestly, I don't think I'm the right person to be talking about this. Honestly, I'm not in the country that this is taking place in. I'm not even close. I'm all the way around the world. At the end of the day, my decision makes no difference in this argument. If I read this book, it's not really going to help the author. And if I don't, it's not really going to help the other community. So I don't think I'm the person that should be talking about this. Personally, if it was me and if I lived in America and I was going to buy this book, so I knew that me reading this book is going to pay money in the pocket of this author, and I had heard debates on whether or not while supporting this author I'm also supporting JKR, I wouldn't be doing that. I'm not saying you shouldn't be. I know that a lot of arguments are against that. I just think if I was in that position, I wouldn't. Because coming from a person from a very minor community in a country that have been always under pressure and got so much hurt and abuse from the government and from groups that are against my community, I get that sometimes you're telling people, okay, you supporting this form of art is hurting me and my community, and them not listening to me is so frustrating, especially when they're like, well, I don't see the harm in it, and I'm like, you're not a part of this community that is being hurt. You don't have to see the harm that it's doing. I'm telling you it's harmful, please don't do this. And they have their own choice to tell me to go to hell, basically. But as someone who has been in that position, I would never do it to someone else. I'm going to put some videos about this subject down below, especially Taylor Rose's video was so informative to me. And what we're going to do here today is, okay, I live in Iran and Iran is under a lot of sanctions. So we basically don't have books here. So I buy subscriptions to different library apps and audiobook apps. So I am subscribed to an app who purchases these books and I can read them from there, but the book is available there, so it doesn't matter if I read it or not. It's basically if you go to the library and the book is available, you taking that book out, reading it and giving it back is not directly supporting the author. Of course, at the end of the day, it's somehow supporting them because you are checking that book out, but it's a minimum type of support. So I thought to myself, now that I'm doing that, I'm going to take that book out, read it, write extensive notes on it, and come here and record what the story is about. So that if people really want to be in the loop of what's going on in this book and what's the story about at different parts of this book, and they want to know but they don't want to read this book, or sorry about my... If you saw my camera shifting, that was my cat running marathons on my wire. Anyways, if people want to know but they don't want to read this book and support this author, they can use this video and have it both ways. So you can know what's going on and what the story is, but not support this author or the original IP. Now that... Can you not? Now that I have mentioned the original IP, I see fit to explain to you that I have never read the original IP books. Never in my life have I read one sentence of these books. I don't know anything about the story of the books. The only knowledge that I have of the HP world is when I was 12 years old or 13 at my school. Since we don't speak English in my country, we have English lessons and we get to learn English. I could already speak English because I went to English class on my own, but that's besides the point. So at that English class at my school, our teacher wanted to make us more excited about learning English, so she put on HP movies and I watched the first 3 movies there. That's all I know from this world. I have no knowledge of the rest of the book. That is why when they said, okay, this is the original fanfic is from if that thing didn't happen in the books and this thing happened, and I was like, I have no knowledge of either of these things. So I did not read HP, I did not read Manacled, and reading Alchemized was my first introduction to this world. I'm going to divide this book into 3 parts because the book itself is divided into 3 parts, which honestly make it a trilogy. You're already making it a book, just make it a trilogy so that you can consume them better. It's a very huge book. At my Kindle app, it's 2,000 something pages, and the first part itself is 577 pages. That's a whole book. When I read a normal book on my iPad, it is around 550 to 600 pages. And I did not read the next 2 parts because I wanted my reaction to be raw. So I finished the first part. I'm going to tell you about it and tell you about how I felt about this part on its own. I don't want my knowledge of the rest of the book to affect my review of this part. I'm going to tell you everything about it, move on to the next one, take a video, and again. Okay, let's talk about whether or not I think this book can stand on its own. Technically, yes. Again, I did not know anything about the original book, but I kinda understood it. I think if you know the original book, or at least the original fanfic, you would understand this way better. So I can see it as, okay, people are going to start this book, be so confused, go to the original IP, which is not something we want. We do not want to support JKR at all costs. So that's that. I think, is the book good on its own? I think that SenLinYu wanted to separate her world and magic system from the HP world, so she spent all of her time on developing this magical system and how she can translate the magic that it was available in that original IP into a completely self-built magic system that was not really a benefit for her. Because first of all, she spent no time on developing the characters. So the characters, when you read them in the book, are just not interesting, boring, and not distinct. So you have these names, which in a fanfic it's okay, you can name this character and the people who are reading it know them from the original IP and they know the personalities of this character. But when you're writing a book, I have no knowledge of who all of these characters are, and you're name dropping them. And I'm like, so many new words, so many new names. And she just keeps naming everything, and you do not need to do that on your book. You don't have to have a name for every single character. And that's what writers do. Authors write a book, and when there's not an important character, like when the main character is moving to some place and see a security guard, she names them security guard so that we know who that person is, but they're not that important to have a name. But since this was a fanfic, every single minor person that you see on page 1 time has a name. And you're so confused on who is that, and who's that, and who's that, and why does this person have a name? And even the characters that are important, so our female main character Helena or our MMC, what's his name, Farron, they don't have a personality. They're just carrying out the plot. And I think that is because it was a fanfic turned into a book. And the second problem that she caused by being so focused on building out the magical system was that she info dumped it all on us. So you start the book from the very first pages, there's info dump after info dump after info dump after info dump of all the political things and all the magical things in this world. It's just like, she was like, okay, I know you know this is a fanfic. Look at me, this is not that. I built my own magical system. And she wants to give all of that to you at the first 50 pages so that you know she built another magical system and world and politics. And that's very bad because the info dump is too dense, unnecessary, and you forget all of it by the time that you actually get into the story and you get to know this world. You forget all the things that she told you at the very beginning of the world, and not even through dialogue. through internal monologue of this character. And now let's get into the first, our FMC, Helena, one of the worst, most boring characters of all time. She has no personality. She's more lost than you are most of the time, and you don't even. She's just telling you this story and is the narrator of the story of her own life. She has no character building, no arc, no nothing. She's just there to observe everything and info dump on you of the background of this country, of the magical system, of the different religious beliefs, which are so confusing because you don't know what the truth is. And she keeps telling you, okay, the religion said that, and this cult said that, and that. So bad. The first part, messy as hell. Not interesting at all. It bored me to death. I wanted to put down the book so many times, and I kept checking the page count, and I was like, I still have hundreds of pages to go to be done with the first part. That's very bad. When I am this bored at the beginning and not even in the middle of the book, I'm 27% in at the end of the first part, and I am very, very bored. So I'm trying to not make this video be too long, but I think it's going to be, because again, 577 pages, first part. I'm going to get into the story now that we got all of that out of the way. Okay, I'm going to explain two things to you before we get into the whole story of it. The info dumps, I'm going to dump all the info dumps on you, but I'm going to shorten them so you can understand this better. So the religious belief, we don't still know the truth about this magical system, is that there was a god, the sun god, named Sol, and he is the one that gifted human beings with the power of resonance. Resonance is basically the power to change and alter metals, so alchemy. It's the power to do alchemy, and Sol is the one that did that. And each person that has a resonance, so not everybody does, but people who have resonance are capable of alchemy, and they can alter one type of metal. So each person can only affect, I don't know, gold or silver or whatever. And the noble metal that is responsible for resonance is called lumithium, which is a very indestructible metal, and they have to mine it out of the ground. Okay, that's that. What else do we need to know? Okay, some people have this resonance, and they can use it to not just alter metals, but make changes and alterations into human bodies, so live bodies, and they call it vivimancy. And some people can raise dead bodies, which is necromancy, as we all know, or don't, or whatever. And this religion that we, until now, the only knowledge we have is from this religion, because she, Helena, our FMC, it was a part of that, sees vivimancy as a corruption of the soul. So the soul of this person is corrupt, and that's why they have vivimancy. And they see vivimancy as the corruption of the soul in the womb. So it's the woman's fault that that child is corrupt, even though it's a very cool power. So you know it is propaganda and lies, but she doesn't, and you want to punch her because of that. I told you what necromancy was, and we have something that we don't know at the beginning of this book, but we get to it so fast, so I'm going to let you know right now. We also have something called animancy, which is the ability to go into someone else's or your own mind and alter and change memories or feelings. And that's animancy. That's the magical system, basically. Got it? And next, let's get to the political parts of it, because that's one of the most important parts, and it is explained very, very badly, scattered all over the place, not one direct explanation. You get a part of it here, a part of it there, a part of it there, and it's like, just tell me a short amount of story. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that complicated. So what happened is, this religion says, which is we know is a basic lie, that Sol, the god that I told you about, gave a drop of sunlight to Orion Belfast, and Orion Belfast became the religious leader of this country, named Palladia, and also the political ruler of this place. And the family of Holdfasts have been leading Palladia all throughout the time, because they say that their sent from God, and they deserve to rule Palladia. And they have a principate named Apollo who's ruling Palladia before our story begins. And they have something else named the guilds, which are basically the more wealthy, powerful families, the royal families of Palladia. And the guilds are not really okay with Apollo because of his political views and all of the acts that he does. So one day somebody kills Principate Apollo. And when he dies, technically his little brother Luke should become Principate, but these guilds say that no, he's just 16, too young, we're going to build something named Assembly of Guilds. And from now on, we as an assembly are going to rule Palladia, and it's time that the holdfasts go away, and we don't want to have this religious leader for our country. So they start that, and Luke, the holdfast, and his followers are trying to resist, and they form something named the Resistance, and they name it the Eternal Flame. Sometimes it's referred to as the Eternal Flame and sometimes as the Resistance. Even though they are probably going to win because they're very, very powerful, in the middle of that, a man appears named Morrow. He's very, very powerful man who can do alchemy in a very more scientific type. So he doesn't believe that it's just a religious thing that was gift from God. It's kind of an scientific thing, and he can alter that and makes it into something else. So he shows up and he makes something named the Undying. So he makes people immortal with the scientific part of his field, and he promises anybody that follows him the gift of immortality, and he turns them into the Undying, and they get more and more alchemical abilities. So the guilds, wanting to be immortal, agree to work with Morrow and follow him. So the guild become Undying. Very original name, by the way, the Undying. Luke, while being at war with these people, thinks that they're going to win, but Morrow shows that he has one more trick, basically, and that is necromancy. So when somebody from the Eternal Flame dies, Morrow awakens that body and uses it as a soldier for his own side. So that makes them in a very, very big disadvantage, and at the end, Luke gets killed and they lose the war. So now Palladia is being ruled by Morrow and the guilds, and everybody that was a part of the Eternal Flame has either been killed or is imprisoned. And that's where we start our story. Now that you know that, let's start at the beginning of the story. I have so much notes we're going to have to get through. I'm going to be very, very quick. So we start our story with Helena. She's in stasis and everywhere is black. She's awake and not unconscious, but she can't move and she can't use her powers. The beginning is very clunky. She gets awakened, she blacks out, she wakes up, she sleeps. It doesn't matter. The whole point is she was in stasis, somebody opens it and realizes that, oh my gosh, she's conscious, gets her out, and now a scientist is doing some research on her. They have so many questions about why she has 2 different prison numbers, how the hell was she not unconscious, how long was she even there, and she can't answer anything. So they decide to go through her memories with Vivimancy and realize what was going on. But when they try to read her memories, they realize that there are some kind of locks on her memories. And some part of her memories are just locked out and they cannot enter them. And those are the parts that they want the information from. And while using a kind of a glass that they can see her memories, it's like her mind and memories are some routes that get into places, and some places are just blocked, and when in her mind she tries to go these ways, or the Vivimancer tries to go into these ways, they get rerouted and they can't reach those memories. And that is so unique, and basically they thought that is impossible, and that's impossible perfect work of Vivimancy, that they're very shocked and they're like, okay, we're going to take her into the central. which is the alchemy tower that they used to study in, and now Maru is ruling from there. She goes into this prison and she has these bracelets on. They are metal bracelets from, what was it called? Lumithium, that nullify her powers, so she can't use her vivimancy. She can't use her own powers. And it is at this prison she hears the voice of another person of the Eternal Flame resistant group, and she updates her that everybody is either dead or imprisoned, and there's no more Eternal Flame left. The resistance is just completely gone. And she updates her that Lila is dead, which is very important to her because Lila was one of her best friends, and she was Luke's paladin, the bodyguard basically of Luke, and that's very important to her. That's all we needed to know from this prison. But they get name dropped. I'm not going to confuse you, and I'm just going to tell you Mara is here, and the scientist woman that was talking to her about her memory and stuff, named Stroud, she's kind of a doctor. Not really, but she does the job of a doctor, kinda. And they have this memory or mind specialist there, it doesn't matter. And they bring a man that was formerly part of this resistant group named Shizeo to say whether or not he recognizes her or he knows what was done to her brain. Maro goes through her brain with his vivimancy and his very, very strong powers and sees the same thing. Okay, these parts are very deeply blocked, and they're all talking to each other about, okay, how the hell did she even survive 14 months in stasis? People cannot survive more than 6 months in stasis, but she did. And then suddenly they bring in someone else who is called Mandel, who is the one that put her in the stasis. She comes in and quickly says that, okay, yes, I put her in the stasis and I did not turn on the unconscious part because I wanted her to suffer, because she was a Vivimancer and was working with the Holdfats, while us, the other Vivimancers, were being, shunned from society and stuff. So she was angry, she put her there, did not turn on the unconscious part, was planning to come back after a short while, but got transferred into the central, and she was there for 14 months, conscious in the stasis tank. And Mara gets extremely angry at her because the memories that she's blocking might be very, very important, and just because she didn't report that and just put her there, it's been 14 months and they could have missed something very important. So this is important, that's why I'm explaining it to you. He reaches into her chest and brings out a metal piece, and that body dies. Then he puts this metal piece into the chest of a necrothrall, which are the dead bodies that are animated by necromancers. And Maru suddenly wakes up in that body. That's when we realize that, okay, the body is different from that person's personality and soul, and somehow they got it into this metal piece. And that's how they're undying. When the body dies, you take that out, put it into another body. Sorry for the change of angle, my battery just died. My camera was just off and I needed to just change that. So we later learned that when you put somebody in someone else's body and you change the bodies, they don't get their resonance back. They get whatever resonance that was in that body. So now that Mandel is in the new Necrothrall's body, she doesn't have the resonance and power that she had while being in her own. And that's kind of a punishment for her. And if she can earn his trust back, she can get her own body back, whatever. One of the people who are there to have opinions about what is probably going on says that the memories that are locked are so deep that she probably did it herself, and that's the only way that these memories could be locked. But nobody really takes them seriously, and they think that it's impossible for somebody to do this. And that's not really their priority. They need to unlock these memories and realize what's going on. Then Shizeo, the one that was formerly from the Eternal Flame and turned, says that, okay, there was a general in the war who got a head injury, and they first fixed his brain, but just because his brain was fixed, that did not mean that his mind was fixed also. So he was like a child, couldn't do things himself and stuff. And the reason he's saying this story is at the end of the war, there was a report that there was a healer in the Eternal Flame who was finally able to heal his mind and fix it by going to his mind and making different changes to fix the problem. Maru is like, no, that's not healing. That's animancy, which is the place that we realize what animancy is, but I told you at the beginning. And Shizeo is like, they said that piece by piece she got there and got his brain to get adapted to her and fixed their brain. And Maru is like, oh, so you're telling me that the Eternal Flame realized how to do soul transference, this process of going into someone's brain and making them get used to you and follow your commands is called soul transference. And they had an animancer who could do this. And we didn't know that. That's really bad. Stroud says that, okay, so if the Eternal Flame had an animancer, that could explain what happened to her memories. The animancer did transference, got into her brain, locked those memories, and got out. So now they really need to go and figure out, first of all, what those memories are, and second of all, who did that and who is the animancer, because that's a very dangerous power to have. Maru decides that he's going to send Helena to the High Reeve to work on him and figure that out. Who is High Reeve? High Reeve was the favorite student of Bennett. We later on realized that Bennett was the scientist who was working on all of these powers and different kind of soul transfer and working on minds, working on bodies. He was just a very well-known scientist, and the High Reeve is now basically Maru's right hand and does all the enforcing and killing and hunting and other things for him. Helena gets sent to that castle that they live in, and when she enters, she meets the High Reeve, aka Kane Farron. And he knows Farron because they used to be at the same school in that alchemy tower. They were at the same level and they always studied together. Helena was always first, and Farron was second at the rankings. And his wife is also there, Aurelia. You get this at the beginning that Aurelia is not a very good person. As soon as she sees that Helena flinches when looking at red flowers, she's like, oh, Helena cannot handle red. So all the clothes that Aurelia sends to Helena are red, which is really unnecessary. We clearly did not need Aurelia to be this kind of woman hater, misogynistic character. There was no need for Aurelia to be this character, but she is, and you get to realize that, oh, she is even worse at the rest of the story. She starts living at this house, mansion, castles type thing, and she's very scared of shadows because she was in that dark tank for 14 months, so she can't really go out and explore the house. She just sits at her room, and necrothralls come in and out and give her food and stuff. She really, really hates necrothralls because she sees them as unnatural dead things, and normally she just flinches every time she sees them. She keeps dreaming of Luke and Lila. She decides that the best plan right now is for her to kill herself. If she offs herself, then whatever information it is that it's locked in her brain will never get out, and nobody will be endangered because of her, which is a very, very weird thought process because everybody is either dead or imprisoned. Who are you trying to protect? You know, if everybody else is dead, why are you going to kill yourself to keep memories that might help you? Whatever, that's her plan. So every day she sits there and is thinking about all the ways that she can kill herself. And since there is no weapons around her for her to do that, she thinks that the best way for her to do that is to make Farron angry enough that he kills her. Not a very great plan, might I say. But that's her plan. So the first day, or the second, whatever, Aurelia comes to her room and says, okay, this is going to be her first session of transference, and takes her to Farron's room to do the transference there. But when she enters that room, Farron is not there. While she's looking around, Farron appears and is like, what are you doing here? And soon he realizes that, oh, that's Aurelia. So Farron is very well aware of what a not very nice person Aurelia is, and they do the first transference moment. He gets into her brain and is looking around and sees himself through her eyes, and it's a very weird moment for him, and he's like, why did I look like this? Why did it change so much? And he's so shocked that he just rips himself out, and she gets so disoriented. For a few moments she just cannot remember what the hell is happening, and Farron is like, get out, get out. When she gets out of his room, what does she do? Thinks about jumping off of the stairs to, girl, maybe try to live and run away first. Try it at least, maybe it works. But no, and before she even tries to do anything, Farron just catches her and is like, nope, not gonna let you do that. Do you think I'm stupid? And goes through her memories, recent memories, to know what else is she thinking about. And then he soon realizes that, oh, are you really, really that stupid to think that I can be so angry to kill you? Do you really think I'm that dumb? Which honestly, that was a very dumb plan. I told you it was dumb. She sleeps and she sees all of the different memories that she had, and when she wakes up, Stroud is at her bedside. She realizes that she has a brain inflammation and she had some seizures. Ow. My cat is here. I'm playing with my hair. That hurts. Stroud recommends that she walks in the yard every day. She eats healthily, and they're going to limit the transference sessions to monthly so that her brain doesn't destroy itself before they can reach those precious memories. Farron takes her out, and while they're walking, tells her that they printed in the newspapers that she was caught and she's living with Farron now, so that if there is any part of the resistance left, they would come save her and be captured. So it's a trap. She's the trap. She tries to help herself again by lying down underground because it's cold. Again, we see many attempts, not very clever attempts, but just attempts from her to off herself, which I don't really respect. Not that I don't respect suicidal ideations, I'm just like, when the main character of a book doesn't try, and it's like, okay, my plan is to just, I'm like, that's not a very great message. Maybe try first. You haven't done anything. You woke up and you're like, oh, I have very important information. Let's just die. She steals that newspaper that Farron is reading, and while looking at the date, she realizes that it's November 7th. It's November. November is not written November. It's written like this. I'm going to put it on screen. November 1788. And the last date that she remembers is at the beginning of 1786. And if she was at the tank for 14 months, that means that she doesn't remember 19 months of that war. So 19 months of her memories are just not there. And those are the locked parts. This is the first time we realize the amount of time that she is missing, and she's very shocked. The thing that she learns from this newspaper is that they have started a program, naming it a repopulation program, to increase the amount of alchemists in that country. We get the explanation later, but I'm going to tell you now. So what is going on is that when people want to mine lumithium, the only people that can do that are the ones that don't have resonance. Because if you have resonance and you get so directly next to lumithium, you get sick and poisoned. So workers that don't have any resonance mine lumithium. What happens is their children are born with resonance, and that's how the population of people with resonance grow. Now, after the Morrow and the followers are ruling the Palladia, what they did is they used necrothralls to mine lumithium. So now they don't have children, and the amount of alchemists that they have in this city are decreasing. So their solution was, okay, we're going to start a repopulation program. which is a unfortunately breeding program, which I hate. I really wish that they found another plot device. I heard that this was in the first original fanfic, but I thought that it was just taken out, but it is there. Unfortunately, it is still there, and it is not talked about enough or in a way that can explain why we needed it there. The next day, when they're going to go take a walk, Farron leaves sooner, and while Helena is trying to follow him, the hallways are very, very dark, and she can't find the light switch, and she has a panic attack because she's afraid of shadows. Farron helps her and says something very, very cruel. He says, when I heard it was you I'd be getting, I was looking forward to breaking you, but I don't think it's possible to exceed what you've done to yourself. Unnecessarily cruel, but whatever. Then he shows her where all the light switches are so that she can get out of her room, and she starts looking through the house when it's light outside and trying to understand how this whole house works. And whenever she's going anywhere, the necrothralls just follow her around. 1 month passes, and Stroud says that her brain is ready for another transference, but she's still very weak and she needs to eat better and go out more. And she says that, okay, when you're done here, maybe I will add you to my repopulation program because you have great powers. But Helena tells her that she has been sterilized because in their religion, vivimancy is a corruption that starts in the womb, as I told you. And even though when becoming a healer, she made a vow of never having children, but the religious person that should have given the okay for her as a vivimancer to become a healer was not sure. So he made her get herself sterilized, and she said yes. Stroud gets very angry at this and says that the only people who fall for this kind of myth and lies are children, and why can't she just think clearly and realize that they were lying to her because they were afraid of her abilities. When Farron comes to visit her and check through the memories that she had in this 1 month that he wasn't checking her, she asks him if he was the one who killed Principate Apollo. And Farron says, not officially, but she realizes that, oh, it was you. And when she's silently judging him, he says, you're not better than I am. You used to heal people at the time of the war. You used to heal people in your hospitals just to send them back there so that they could die for you and your cause. How the hell is that better or more moral than what I did? And that breaks her because she is very fragile at this stage, and she dreams of herself and Luke being on a rooftop of the Alchemy Tower in the middle of the war, and she remembers that she told him that when she promised that she would do anything to help him, he didn't really realize how far she was willing to go. And we don't know how far she went. We don't know anything about their past because first of all, she doesn't have her memories, and second of all, she's a very, very bad storyteller. The next day, Farron comes to her room and gives her this pill that shuts down all of her emotions and panicking thoughts and just calms them down, and tells her that is so that she can go and search the whole house and realize the layout of this house so that she's not this afraid to go out when it gets dark. While searching the house, she realizes that there is an eyeball in her room, and through that eye, Farron can always monitor whatever she's doing in her room. And she's like, have you been watching me all along? And he's like, no, you're boring. She doesn't get more angry than that because of course she doesn't. She's a prisoner. She's just used to it. And Helena is very, very shocked because the skill that is necessary for a person to be able to monitor a body part from afar that meticulously is very, very high, and that means that Farron is extremely powerful and talented. I'm going to mention this because I don't know if it's going to be important. I guess it is, because you know the hints that you get that, oh, this meant something in another lifetime. Farron doesn't really wear metal rings, which is something that all the guilds do because they draw from their metals. He only wears one ring, and when Helena asks him what is that, it's like this is an old piece, and gives their ring to her. I'm assuming there's a history behind this ring, but she looks at the ring and is like, should I swallow it and die? Again, a lot of attempts from Helena, and he's like, before she does anything, he says, don't swallow that. So there are hints that he can either kind of read her mind, or he knows her way better than she thinks, and he can understand the way she thinks. They have another transference scene, and when he gets out of her brain, she sees a man looking at her, so that at that point we know that it's Farron, but she's so disoriented that she doesn't recognize him, and she's like, do I know him? And he's like, yes, I'm the person at charge for your health. And in the middle of the night, she wakes up lying down on the ground in the yard under the rain because she felt so hot, and we realize that that's her brain inflammation. And Stroud comes to check her out. She decides that, okay, monthly transference sessions are okay. She had one seizure, and that's fine. From now on, we're going to have monthly transference sessions. Now, we're getting to winter, and winter solstice is here, and the Farrons have a big party, and all the guilds come there and visit there for the biggest party that they have. While she's sitting at her room, a man comes into her room and is like, oh, hey there. And he recognizes her, but she doesn't remember who he is. And he's very shocked that she doesn't recognize him. Farron immediately shows up and is like, are you lost, Lancaster? The only thing that she knows about him is that Lancasters are one of the guild families, and this person was in their alchemy tower studying, but not in the same class as they were. She watches the party from upstairs and looks throughout the stairs, and at the countdown, there's a countdown. When the countdown hits 0, Farron kisses Aurelia, but while kissing Aurelia, he's looking at her. And that's something that I always love. And the only other explanation that I have is when Carden is kissing another girl and looks at Jude. And that scene I love so much that each time I get something close to that. So he looks at her. And this is not a romantic book, okay? There's so many dark things in here that the romance is barely there. I mean, I'm not that far into it. Maybe in the next parts we get a lot of romance, but even if we do, I don't think we can call it a romantasy. Maybe a romance fantasy romance, fantasy with a touch of romance, whatever. Farron gives her another pill and tells her that this is the last time. So she takes the pill and starts going through the house. She wanders into his room and they start having an argument, a discussion, but more of an argument about whether or not the Holdfasts actually were good people. Helena believes that they were very amazing people, and Farron disagrees hardly and is like, they brought foreigners into the city to study, and they made such a divide between them and normal students that they believed that us, the guilds and other students, hated them. But it was the holdfasts that didn't let us get close to the transference students because they wanted those students to be only devoted to them and their cause so that they would die for them. And Helena, obviously, as somebody that believes in a religious cult and propagandas of it, does not agree with him and doesn't accept that explanation. And while Farron tells her that nobody in that school really cared about him, from Luke and Holdfast's part, she says, no, that's not true. I had friends that cared about me so much. I had Luke, I had Lila, and there was somebody else. And then she remembers, oh, there was Soren. And Soren was Lila's twin brother. But for some reason, she can't really remember his face. And each time, we don't have it here, but later on we have it. Each time she's wondering about Soren and what happened to Soren, her brain doesn't let her focus on that and switches her into thinking about Lila. So that's how we know that something is going on with Soren and probably he's not dead. And that's why we can't really see Soren. She can't really think about him because probably he's alive or something like that. She still has many, many dreams that are memories, and they're so scattered that I don't really see the point of telling you about them. She sees dreams about Luke and their conversations. She has dreams about Lila, and in one of her dreams, Lila is telling her that she made a mistake and she's crying. She has dreams about having dinner or something with the holdfasts. So Luke and his parents, and she has memories and dreams of the time that she was sent to this kind of religious place so that that religious leader there could accept the fact that she wanted to become a healer. That was a part of the journey, and he wasn't really acceptable of that. But Ylva Holdfast, Luke's mother, basically ordered him to send her just so that she could become Luke's personal healer. So they basically bend all the religious rules that they set so that they can protect their own family. Religion, huh? Why am I not shocked that those religious leaders changed their religion to suit themselves? Why am I not surprised? One day, you see how I say one day, one day, one day, and if you think that's me, that's not me, that's a book. That's how it goes. The next day, this happened. 10 days later, this happened. 2 months later, this happened. It just jumps. It's not a consistent story of, okay, we are having this story. It's like, I told you this day, jump, this day. Next term, I'm variance, jump, this day. That's the way that this story is told, and that's why I'm saying the next day, because we jump to the next day. So another day, she's wandering through the house, and she wanders into the dining room and sees all the silverware and stuff, and realizes there's a knife. So obviously, she snatches it up because whatever she's doing, all the things that she's thinking about is, oh, how can I kill myself? So she takes the knife and hides it in her sleeve and gets out of the dining room when Farron and his dad are having a conversation, argument type. And when they see them, his dad is like, I didn't know you let the prisoner just wander around. And Farron immediately knows that she is hiding something, as like, what's in your hand? She says, no, I was just there to see the flowers. And Farron's like, okay, then show me your hand. But she decides that the best thing that she's going to do with that knife is to hit Farron. What was the thought process? So you have a knife, and two people that are way more important and powerful than you, because you have manacles on that don't let you use your magic, are standing in front of you. You're in a house that is controlled by that man, and house staff that are controlled also by that man. So if you stab him, even if you can kill him, how is that helping you? Anyways, she tries to stab him, cannot do that. It's like stabbing granite. That's how thick what he's wearing is. Later on, she realizes that it's a woven armor, and that's why she couldn't stab him, and it barely scratches him. And then she decides that, okay, if I cannot stab him, I'm going to stab myself in the neck. And Farron immediately stops her. One of his hands catch the blade, and the other one her neck. I was like, stop. The thing that I love about them is they're so snappy at each other. They just snap at each other all the time, and that makes the banter between them kind of fun. It is like, why don't you ever stop? And she says, why don't you die? And he answers, prior commitments, I'm afraid. And his dad is just watching them being like, what is happening here? و بلافاصله وایسا زبانم یهو عوض شد. If you heard that, I suddenly switched into Persian. I'm not going to cut that out so that you know when you have a bilingual brain, you somehow just switch. And it takes you a while to realize you were speaking in another language. So immediately, he realizes that the person that caused this and put those knives there in her reach was Aurelia. And he says, how good of Aurelia to have these freshly sharpened and left them within your reach. So the wife is a constant problem for both of them. And I don't get it. Why? Why did you have to write one other female main character? Two, actually. So we have Helena, our FMC, and Farron. Okay, those are the main ones. And the other constant people that you watch, Mara is not there. Mara is named a lot, but you don't see him often. The only other two characters that you see often are Aurelia and Stroud. Both of them women, both of them monsters. Stroud is a scientist that has no morals. And Aurelia is just a jealous little girl. Why? What was the point of that? Why couldn't she just be a very powerful woman who ignores Helena? Or tries to help Helena even? Why not? When she's going to her room, she hears Farron's dad telling him that he is sure that he has seen her before and he recognizes her from somewhere. This comes back later on. In the middle of the winter, the governor is nearly assassinated. When the governor is mentioned, he's mentioned by his full name. It's like the governor, whatever. And this is one of the instances that I'm like, I do not need to know the name. Why are you just naming everybody and everything? Just say the governor. That's all I needed to know. I don't care about his name. He was ribbon cutting and suddenly a crossbolt came towards him but accidentally hit Mandel, and now Mandel is dead. And that is the first time ever that an Undying died. And they're very, very shocked because the Undying are undying. So she's like, everybody is shocked because first of all they realize that the Undying can be killed, and second of all because they thought all of the resistance members are dead or imprisoned. Then who the hell attacked him? And the whole country is in shock and in upheaval and everything just messed up. So Farron is just outside all the time trying to hunt down whoever it was, and he comes back with mud on his clothes and very tired and just exhausted. Sprout comes to visit Helena and checks her out, and Helena is very shocked to see her and asks her, okay, aren't you worried that you're a target now that they're killing the Undying? And Sprout says that I'm not one of the Undying. Morrow is empowering me to carry out his work, but I haven't turned into Undying yet. Well, and to answer Helena's question of why, she says because becoming an Undying has its own limitations, and the Undying frequently develop a tendency towards sadism over time, and it can affect whatever it is that they're working on and researching on. And she believes that that is what happened to Bennett, and before he was killed, he had basically gone crazy, kinda, and he wasn't thinking logically on their research. She brings out a set of large syringes that shocks Helena because that's very, very new. I'm going to say something here. Pause. Am I saying the name weird? I think you don't call her Helena. In my language, we call her Helena, but maybe you call her Helena. Do you call her Helena? And I've been calling her Helena all along because I'm Persian. Well, in this channel, she's Helena. Sorry for my pronunciation if that's not how it was intended. And if... Anyways, sidebar. So, Helena is very, very shocked because that's not the norm, but before she can say anything or protest, she stabs her in the arm with one of the syringes, and she's just like, what are you doing? She passes out. And she wakes up with her whole body aching and and all of her muscles taut, and her abdomen hurts so much, like somebody kicked her in the abdomen time after time. And she doesn't really have time to gather herself because Farron comes in and it's like, we need to go. The High Necromancer, aka Morrow, wants to see you. And they get into this motor car thing that they have, and instead of going to the tower that is now the central, they go to this lower parts of the city and into these tunnels. And he is aware that something has happened to her, because when she entered her room, when he entered her room, he asked what is wrong, and she said Stroud. So he's like, can you walk? And holds her arm and takes her into these tunnels. It is very dark and damp, so she's kind of afraid, but he's holding her, so she's fine. They get in and she sees Morrow, and she's very shocked because, first of all, he's sitting on this throne of dead bodies. They're just necrothrall on top of necrothrall on top of necrothrall, and he's sitting on that throne. And second of all, because she hasn't seen him for months, but he has shrunken so much, he's very thin, and it seems like the skin is rotting off of his body, and it's very, very weird. He tells Farron that he's not satisfied with his progress at all, and he basically says that you're a disappointment, and by now you should have had all of those memories, and you're not doing enough. You always say that you're trying, but you're not, and Farron just stands there and takes it and says, sorry, I'm going to do better, I'm going to do better, and I'm going to try harder. But Maury's like, no, I want to see those memories for myself, and goes through her brain and looks at all the memories that have been brought up. So all the dreams that we saw, all the things that they have been doing in that castle. He watches all of the transference sessions again and again, and when he gets out of her brain, mind you, this is not transference, okay? When a person goes through somebody's memories and looks at them, that's vivimancy and not transference. What Farron does is go to her brain and tries to sync their brains so that he can control her brain and body as much as she can. So that's a different thing that they're doing. Mara is just going through these memories and watching them, not doing transference to her. And after being done with that, he says, so the Eternal Flames Animancer is not dead after all. Helena knows nothing, so we don't have any comments from Helena. Let her go. He just tells you everything that everybody else is saying to each other. Helena is just useless. Farron's like, what? You think Elaine Boyle is still alive? That's the healer that they thought was the Animancer. And again, why do we have a name for everybody? And Morrow tells him that, no, she was not the Animancer. Have you not realized that doing transference to her is way more difficult than the others? And Farron answers that, okay, they told me that because of the transmutions in her brain, it would be harder. But he says that no, it is harder not because of those transmusions, but because she is resisting you. And the reason she is resisting you is because she's the Animancer. Which we all knew. I mean, it wasn't said, and again, Helena is useless, so she didn't tell us that, but we got the hints that she was going to be the Animancer. It was not a shocking reveal that, oh my god, Helena is an Animancer. Of course she is. There's one unique power that nobody else has, and of course our FMC is going to have that. Of course she is. Aaron apologizes again and again, and Morrow keeps saying how much of a disappointment he is and how slow he has been in catching the resistant member, and a lot of the undying are dying and he's not doing his job. He says sorry, he says no, this goes on and on and on. And Mara says that your dad told me that he told you that he has realized that he knows her from somewhere and you just didn't listen to him. And Farron says, no, I just don't really believe in my dad's memories anymore and I don't trust them, but I did go around and ask about it, and I realized that she was apprehended near the Westport shortly after the bombing. So that's where his dad knows her from, and she doesn't realize what the hell the bombing was. She doesn't really understand what they're talking about. She's so confused, and so are we. Because we're seeing two people that we don't know have a conversation about things that we don't know, and our FMC is not helping us through it. We're just listening to stuff that we don't know nothing about, without any comment from Helena, and I think that's the worst kind of storytelling. And Morrow kills Farron. A moment of silence for that. He just reaches out with his resonance and boom, Farron is dead, not breathing, on the floor. No heartbeat. And in a moment later, he comes back to life because he's one of the Undying. And the Undying cannot die. And yeah, he comes back to life and is like, okay, sorry, I'll do better, let's go. Takes Helena, they leave. On the way back, Helena asks him, I bombed somewhere? And he says, yes, you bombed a prison. And you read the direct quote. It was after the final battle. Seems you were captured after leveling more than half of the Westport laboratory. You disguised yourself as a Hevgothian, another country in this world, during the attack, and then disappeared into the tank afterwards, resulting in contradictory reports. The investigation was considered inconclusive until my father realized where he recognized you from. He was present that night. And Helena says the most stupid answer, and that is, she says, no, I was a healer. They did not let me fight. Okay, girl. Thanks for that information. And because Helena asks him, he tells her that yes, this happens to him a lot, the killing him and coming back, and this kind of torture is regular in his world. 2 days later, again, time jump, 2 days later, Helena asks him from one of the necro trolls to come to her room because she wants to ask him something. And she's like, I have this theory, listen to me, basically. She doesn't say it like that, but she's like, I have something to ask you, and she starts giving a presentation. So she says that she believes that Mandel was not the first of the Undying to get killed, and the Undying have been dying for weeks, and he is the one that has been covering it up. And then she says that she never understood the point of making people undying, because immortality is a very big and dangerous gift to give. And the only reason Morrow would be willing to give this gift was if it was beneficial towards him, because he's not one of those people who give things for free. And she has realized that when the Undying lose their bodies and they're getting a new body, as I told you that in the beginning, they don't get the resonance that they had, they get the resonance that is in that body. Okay? So if somebody is an animancer and their body is dying and they want to get another body, then if they get a normal one, they can't do animancy anymore. So they would try to keep their body as long as they can, no matter what, and try so hard to get the ability of soul transference and understand that. So she believes that Morrow is very, very old and his body is dying. And since he's an animancer, he doesn't want a normal body to transfer into, he wants an animancer body. But what is wrong with trying to learn transference is if that person is an animancer, which is what he needs to transfer into, that animancer is going to fight him because they have the ability to fight him, and that's going to be very problematic for him. And that's why he's living in his old body and the skin is rotting and stuff, because he's waiting for an animancer to transfer into. And then she realizes, or at least she says she has realized, pause. When did you realize all of this stuff? We are living in her brain 24/7. Why were we not in the thought process? Why are we hearing the presentation? Why didn't you tell that to me before you told it to Fair? Anyways, she says that she has realized that is why the repopulation program is going on, not because of the fact that he gives a shit about the population of alchemists going down, but because he's trying to find an animancer for himself. So he wants a vessel of animancy, and meanwhile he's trying to perfect the act of soul transference so that when he has the body to transfer into, he has the ability to break an animancer and do transference on that animancer, so that he can get to that body. And she says that right now, he's extremely old, so he shouldn't have the same resistance as he did before, but he does. So something else right now is the source of his powers. And she believes that the source of his powers are hidden in hindsight and are the undying. The undying are somehow the source of his powers. She gets a very, very, very bad headache, and before she passes out, she says the resistance had realized that the undying are the source of his power, and they had figured out the way to kill him and kill all of you. And she just passes out. When she wakes up the next day or something, when Farron comes to visit her, she's like, "You didn't answer my question. Was I right?" And he admits that yes, he is dying. And he says it with a satisfaction. So we know that he's not a bad person, because obviously he's going to be the love interest. But I wish the clues were not this obvious. They do transference once more, and Helena doesn't resist him so that it doesn't hurt her that much. And each time that she sees him walking in the house, she realizes that he has been tortured again, and he looks pale, and his eyes are red rimmed, and he's extremely tired, and she's really worried about him. Not worried because she doesn't want to accept the fact that she cares about him, but she wonders what has been happening to her. 10 days later, again, we have so many time jumps. 10 days later, Farron comes to her room and goes through her memories of these 10 days because he hasn't been present. And the banter here is kind of cute. Let me read it to you. "Worrying about me?" His face twisted into a gloating smile. "I never thought I'd see the day." Her face burned. "Don't take it as a compliment. I hate torture." "What a saint," he said dryly, laying a hand across his chest. So they are cute together, if he wasn't her prison guard. Okay, if you don't think about the fact that she's his prisoner, they're cute together. The winter comes to an end, and Lancaster visits start regulating again, and she knows that he is sleeping with Aurelia. It's not a secret. Farron knows also that he's sleeping with Aurelia, he just doesn't really give a shit. They have another party at their house, and she again goes to listen to what they're saying, and she hears that the repopulation program is going, and each of these guild royal people go to this place and sleep with different people, which is heartbreaking and awful, and even thinking about it is very, very bad. Again, I wish there was another way to do this. I don't think, at least until now, maybe later on they talk about it in a way that it makes sense, that she wanted to comment on it, but right now I wish it wasn't in the book. And everybody is just worried about the fact that the undying are being killed, and they're just panicking. They're building panic rooms, and they're trying to not go out alone, and they're very, very scared. While listening to all of these conversations, suddenly Lancaster comes to her and is like, "Oh, I finally saw you." And we realize that he has been coming around into the house using Aurelia to get to her. And he makes so many weird sexual jokes and hints at her, and is like, "If I was Farron, I would chain you to the bed." And he mentions that he was the one who captured her, and he covers her mouth and tries to take her out. While being at the gate of that mansion, Farron suddenly appears as like, "Where the hell do you think you're going?" And threatens her that if he ever sees him again, he's going to kill her. And while asking her, "Why the hell were you even out tonight?" she accidentally tells him what she was prepared to say to Lancaster, and she says, "Farron will always come for me." I want to say that it's very, very cute, and it is, but it's like, that's Stockholm syndrome. He's keeping you alive while imprisoning you, so of course you feel like that. The next day, Aurelia comes to her room, and she's very, very angry and jealous of her. And she's like, "Why do they both care so much about you? What do you have that I didn't?" Unnecessary women against women part of the book. He's jealous and angry and tries to rip her eye out. And while trying to do that, the necro trolls that are controlled by Farron are behind the door, slamming the door is locked, and yelling at her, Aurelia, Aurelia, don't do it, Aurelia. But she has just lost it. And Helena loses this eyesight in one eye at that moment. The moment that her eyesight is out, the house starts rippling and iron bars come out of the house and drag Aurelia away from her, which we know is Farron's doing. A few moments later, Farron comes in and he's so concerned for her eye, and she's just panicking because it's her eyesight. And he calms her down and is like, okay, you are a healer, tell me what to do, tell me how to fix this. And she walks him through it, and they kind of fix her eyes, but not completely, as much as he can. And then he goes to Aurelia and is like, are you crazy? And Aurelia is so shocked. He's like, you were in the city. How did you control the house? How did you get here so fast? And he's like, oh, you're underestimating your husband again in the same day. And Helena also has that question when they get alone. It's like, how did you control the house so precisely and didn't miss and just dragged Aurelia out from afar? And he says that's thanks to Bennett, even though he didn't know what he was doing, but he doesn't want to explain any more than that. He brings her an eye doctor and her eyes gets fixed. While recovering from her eye injury, Sprout comes and examines her and is like, okay, now you're ready. Ready for what? Well, we can get it immediately, but Helena is very lost, and Stroud tells her that now you're ready to get pregnant. I reversed the sterilization that was done on you, and now you can have babies. And since you're an animancer, the chances of you having an animancer baby is way more high, and we're going to start on you. And from today, you're going to be sleeping with the High Reeve, because he's also an animancer, to heighten the chances of the baby being a powerful baby. And no, you don't have a say in this. And if you say no, we're going to take you to Central so that different men can try it. I am so sorry. I'm going to try to keep the explanation to the minimum and not mention anything triggering about this, but the whole concept is kind of triggering. So if you don't want to listen to this part, just skip 1 minute ahead. I'm just going to say it very fast and not mention details and just move on from this part, okay? Are you gone? Okay. She brings in Farron and tells him that you're going to do it with her for 4 or 5 days, and if you can't get her pregnant, we're going to take her to the Central. When Stroud leaves, Helena cries and Farron lets her and is like, are you better? And Helena says, no. Why were you tortured again? Because his face. And he says, for a few things, I'm constantly reminded that I'm a disappointment. And that night, Farron goes to her room, and basically she decides that it's better if it's him than a lot of strangers. And she just reaches her hand, and he does it very fastly and carefully, and while it's done, he reaches in the bathroom. It happens a few more times, and we get to see it, unfortunately, each and every time we get to be there and watch it, and it gets worse and worse. I'm not going to mention them, just know that they do it a few times and it's done. Okay, that's it, we're done with that part of the story. Enter this month that is called the Ascension. I think it's called Ascendance. Yeah, it's called Ascendance, and it's when the moon has this effect that their resonance power is just heightened, and the people that have low resonance get more, and the one with the high resonance get moon drunk. They basically moon drunk. And she can't find Farron, and there's no food being delivered to her room, so she gets worried that what if he has died and I'm left here. So she goes searching for him in the house, finds him in a room. He's very, very drunk, both from the moon and probably alcohol. And he tells her, let me read the quote. Oh, Marino, that's her last name. If I'd known what pain you'd be If I'd known what pain you'd cause me, I never would have taken you. And kisses her. I have to tell you, that is a beautiful scene between them. They kiss each other, she wants it, he wants it, and it's one of the scenes that they don't want to, but they want to. It's over very soon. She runs away and goes to her room and smashes her head into the window again and again and again. And he gets to her room and moves her away from the window and is like, don't, just don't. And he reaches in with his resonance and cut the cords of her emotion so that she calms down. And it's like, okay, why the sudden urge to just do it right now? You've been wanting to do it for a very long time. Why now? Why it was so important now? And she is thinking about Lila and Luke and her dad and stuff. And we realized it from her internal monologue, and the reason that she was doing this was because she has feelings for him, and she feels like that the biggest betrayal of her friends is to have feelings for the person who caused their deaths, and that's why she was doing it. And he makes her explain, and she's like, okay, I heard about this research that when people were being imprisoned, they developed this kind of feeling towards their keepers, and I don't know if it's survival or if it's a coping mechanism, but yeah, she's like, I would rather be raped in the central than have any feelings for you. And he's comforting her, saying that, okay, hopefully you're pregnant and that's done. She's shaking, he puts his hand on her shoulder, and she accidentally puts her head on his chest. And he gets so angry, gets up, says so many harsh and cruel things to her, like, you're pathetic, nobody ever cared about you, you were so lonely that you have feelings for me, that you think that I'm doing all of these things because I care about you, but no, this is my job. He's so harsh suddenly. You can't even imagine, that's so sudden and so bad. And at the end he says, let me be very clear then. I don't want you. I never wanted you. I am not your friend. There's nothing I want more than the moment I'm finally done with you. No, you're not. No, you don't. I mean, at this point, we kind of guess that they had a past in those 19 months that she can't remember, and him saying it this harshly makes us believe that, oh, you have so many feelings for her, that you're denying all of them. He goes out, she's very, very sad, and Stroud comes and tells them that she's pregnant, and she has a panic attack. A very, very bad panic attack, she can't breathe, and Farron comes in and calms her down, holds her, and is like, just breathe, you're okay, and tells Stroud that you know how fragile she is right now. Why the hell would you tell her that like that? And why are you trying to torture her every time you're here? And don't say that you're just doing it for science. What is wrong with you? And Stroud is like, she's the one that killed Bennett. She attacked us after the war and just ruined the laboratory and the work we had done. And Farron tells her that the only reason you have the position you have right now is because the people who deserved it are dead, and that's because of her, so you should be thankful, and don't act like you care that much about science. I know that your project, your repopulation project, is not really that scientific, and you don't know what you're doing. And he's basically like, if you do this again, I'm going to ruin your life. Stop. Helena gets really, really, really depressed. She doesn't get out of her room. She can't eat. She doesn't do anything. And Farron, trying to help her, gives her a book that was probably for her mom, which is on how to raise a child and what you should expect and stuff. And that really helps her and takes her for walks and stuff. While being on the walk in the yard, Helena begs him that this child is yours too. Please don't let anything happen to him. Don't let them use their body. Don't let them torture them. Please, just do something. And Farron is like, I promise you, I'm not going to let anything happen to this child. And Helena doesn't believe him. Because Helena is just not a very great FMC. She doesn't believe things that she should believe. She believes things that she shouldn't. She's portrayed as smart, but I can see that maybe she gets better in the second part. But this part, Helena was not really great. And Stroud again comes to check on her because she's not eating very well and they're worried about her. She shows the baby with, I don't know, something like sonography. What do you call that? You don't call it sonography. Wait, what do you call it? Ultrasound. Yes, we call it sonography. Ultrasound. Something like ultrasound, and says that, oh, and by the way, this pregnancy is going to really help with unlocking those memories. And Helena and Farron are like, huh? And she says the reason she's being able to resisting transference and keeping all of those memories locked is because she's internalizing all of her resonance. Now that she's growing this child, she's not going to have enough resonance for both growing them and keeping those memories locked. So they're going to probably come back. And at night, when Helena is sleeping, suddenly she wakes up and all of her memories rush back. And as we leave first part. The ending was the best part. The moments that she's hearing some echoes of the past. That's the best part of this part 1. So we're done with part 1. I tried to be very quick about it. Sorry if this video is too long. I tried to shorten it as much as I could. Now you know everything that happened in part 1. I'm going to read part 2, and as soon as I can, as soon as I am done with that and I've written a script, I'm going to come here and tell you the rest and what happens there. Please subscribe to my channel, comment down below whatever it is that you want to tell me, and yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. I love you. Thanks for being here. I'm going to update you on the rest of the story when I'm there. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.